Round Lake State Forest Campground is a small campground located in the northern part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula. The campground is a short drive to the east of Vanderbilt, Michigan, and of course sits on Round Lake. While traveling to this campground, Google Maps took me a really weird way, and I ended up having to turn around and go back, and then it took me another really weird way, and it was kind of a pain following the map to get to the campground. So at the end, if you're having a hard time finding this campground, just keep driving around following the edge of the lake, and eventually you'll find signage for it, because there wasn't a whole bunch of it along the side of the main roads. At the billboard, it lets you know that there are 10 campsites here at Round Lake State Forest Campground, and they cost $20 a night. There is a posting for some community events, however, most of them by this point are expired, but I have a feeling the community does several different events throughout the season, and you can probably find an updated listing soon. Heading into the campground, it actually sits in a nice stand of red pines in part of the campground. There's a different mix of trees all through here, but I really love being in the tall stands of red pines. It makes you feel really woodsy and like you're in a super remote setting. You can see here that in the campground there is a bed of pine needles that pretty much covers the whole campground floor, so you're not driving over and putting your tent up on a bunch of mud or a bunch of gravel. That's always nice to not have to worry about a really rough area to put your tent up at. The other thing worth noting about this campground is that most of these sites are relatively large. You would have absolutely no problem backing in a pop-up camper or small trailer, but medium-sized rigs would also have no problem in almost any of the campsites. You can hear there the birds in the background and just how quiet and peaceful this campground is on a weekday. This is also early mid-June-ish, so a lot of people are still in school. I'd imagine that only having 10 sites, this campground does probably get pretty busy. Also, Round Lake is supposedly pretty good for panfish fishing, as well as rock bass and large and smallmouth bass, so it might very well fill up with fishermen here early summer. I've been walking down the road showing the different campsites. We're up to campsite number 8 right here. And I'm just going to keep going right down the road to campsite number 9, which is just across the road here. They're kind of staggered out a little bit like that so that you're not right across the road from your neighbor. Also, you can see that several of these campsites are located right on the water. We're going to walk over and take a look now down there and see what your actual water access is like from these campsites. You can see again just beautiful trees. You're feeling like you are really remote right here in this location. And as you can see, some of these campsites actually do have decent lakeside access for launching a canoe or a kayak from here. It's really awesome and really still right here. Look at the clouds reflecting in the lake. I think the fact that there's nobody here and it's super quiet makes this campground seem even more appealing right now to me. As you can also see by the view right now, Round Lake is actually a fairly small lake. You shouldn't have to have anything more than a canoe or a kayak to get out on this water and enjoy it. Back here we have campsite number 9, which again, a fairly large campsite, just like all of the other ones. And then way up the road, away from all of the other campsites, is campsite number 10. I'm going to hike up that way, just so we can say that we saw all 10 of the campsites here. Campsite number 10 could possibly be considered a pull-through campsite if you have a small enough vehicle, or if you're just driving up here and staying in a tent. I don't think you can make that turn with a large vehicle and trailer attached, but it's always possible. From the campground, you also have access to the High Country Pathway. The High Country Pathway is about 80 miles long. I actually think it's 82. And it's a large hiking trail system that takes you through the elk viewing areas and all over in the Pigeon River country. I'm going to follow this road that goes down here farther. I didn't think this extended, and I don't believe there's any more campsites, but I'm curious to see what's at the end of the road. Looks like it's a small turnaround spot for people that are coming down the road and don't have anywhere else to turn around. You could probably park a vehicle here and put a canoe or kayak out in the water as well if you're somebody who's not camping at the campground, but you want to venture out onto the water and go do some fishing or even just some quiet wildlife viewing as long as there's nobody else here. That'd be an excellent option. One last look at the lake here, and then I'm going to move on. You have to expect by now that I'm not going to leave a campground without testing out the hand pump for the water. I always like to make sure that they work because it's incredible how often they don't. So let's take a look. And before we go, after leaving the well, I'm going to walk over here and check out the restrooms. There are two of them, and we're going to see what one of them looks like. Fairly clean, no smells, no complaints from the outhouses, so we might as well check out the other one, huh? And that wraps it up. Nice little campground. I'd love to stay here.